Oh, this is where it gets really, really fun, is because I'm into like understanding myself and self-awareness so I can be a better individual, a better leader, a better father, a better husband. That's cool. But when I start applying this into the relationships that I'm having, this is where it gets really fun. So it with your spouse, uh, I guess the concept that would want your listeners to know is that fundamentally, at bottom line, this you cannot be in a healthy, sustainable relationship with anybody who continually answers your primal question with a no or a maybe.
Wow.
Okay. I actually think this is why marriages come to an end, because the spouse did not answer the other spouse's primal question in the affirmative. Not enough yeses, way too many nos and maybes.
Well, what's up, crew? It's Adam. You're listening to The Conversation. Today is episode 286, and I am thrilled for your sake because today we have my friend, the legend, Mike Foster on The Conversation. We are talking about the 7 primal questions. It's possible that you've even heard Mike Foster talk about the 7 primal questions like I have. Today, though, we are talking about it in light of leadership and also in light of marriage. And this conversation was so incredibly helpful for me, and I hope it's helpful for you. So I want to say that. Before we go any further, though, a huge note and highlight for any pastors who are tuning in. I got my first coach as a pastor when I was 25 years old, and the church that I was pastoring was right around 100 in attendance. And that coach for me back then was game changing. That coach helped me to grow as a pastor, as a leader. That coach also helped me to grow the church that I pastored back then, which is the same church that I pastor today. But more than anything, though, that coach encouraged me. And so if you are a pastor and you're maybe looking for a coach yourself to be encouraged, to grow as a pastor, to grow your church, I am doing some coaching myself. And so if you're interested in that, go to adamweber.com/coaching. Again, adamweber.com/coaching. This is out of my comfort zone to even tell you about, but I'm super excited. I have 6 different spots for pastors, and I have 5 spots remaining. The first one filled up really quick, and so I wanted to tell you about that, okay? Before we go any further, though, and more than that, I want to give a huge shout out to our partners. Each week, these partners help make the conversations possible. They're also businesses and organizations that I personally know and trust, which is why I want you to know about them as well. Our first partner today is Tommy John. Tommy John clothing is the best. If you haven't ever wore Tommy John, you haven't lived before, and you need to do so. Tommy John has thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews and over 20 million pairs of Tommy John sold. Whether it's undershirts or underwear, modern polos, or sleepwear, which is their best, you are going to love Tommy John. My current favorite, as I just mentioned, is their pajamas. I'm not a pajamas person, but Tommy John pajamas, I am a pajamas person. To find out more and to go shopping, check out TommyJohn.com. Again, that's TommyJohn.com. Our second partner today is Vern Eide. Vern Eide Mitsubishi is a growing employee-owned company that strives to deliver dreams and transform lives. And Vern Eide's goal is excellence in everything that they do. And as a customer, I've purchased my last 3 vehicles from Vern Eide. They are excellent at everything that they do. I'm to the point now that if a friend of mine says that they're looking for a new vehicle, whether it's a car, a truck, a snowmobile, a tractor, a boat, I just tell them, don't go anyplace else. Call Vern Eide. Call Vern Eide. No matter where you live, they will ship it to you. And no matter what kind of vehicle you're looking for, they will most likely have it. Check out verneide.com. Again, that's verneide.com. Well, as I already have shared, today's episode is with Mike Foster, and we talked about the 7 primal questions. And if you have not taken the assessment yet, I want to encourage you, push pause. Literally, if you're not listening to this on the radio, push pause and go take the assessment. It's free. It's at primalquestion.com. So push pause, Take the assessment, then come back. Okay, so once you come back, just to say it again, I've heard Mike Foster talk on the 7 Primal Questions probably 7, 8 times, and every single time it blows me away. I've heard him on podcasts. I heard him a few months back live in person out in Colorado. It has been game-changing for me. And so I'm going to stop talking because I want you to hear the conversation with Mike Foster. On that note, sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation. So, Mike, we typically hear a person's highlight reel. Are you willing to share a current unpretty part of your life? Might be stress. Before we started talking, you might be hinting at it, but it could be stress, could be grief, could be jadedness. Is there a current unpretty part of Mike Foster's life? Because you just seem like you don't have an unpretty part because you're awesome, but I'm going to turn you
Oh
loose.
gosh. Yeah, well let's get real time here. Let's get like in the moment, the right before I hopped on this call and this conversation. I was fuming, okay? And we have had construction going on in our house. And Adam, you probably know this about me. I'm kind of a neat freak. I like order. I like things in its place. I like things clean, okay? None of this is happening currently in my life, and I am becoming the worst version of myself. I mean, I was literally so frustrated, so irritated. I'm texting my wife saying, I can't do this. I like, get these people out of my house right now. We need to finish this construction immediately. And so like I'm coming down from my rage right now during this conversation. So, and here's the thing, Adam, I wish I was a better person. I wish I was more mature that I could handle this. And what I've noticed just in these like this kind of disruption in my rhythms and routines, I got some things I got to work on. I got to go back to my therapist and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
help me with this," because and that's the reality of our life, right? There's so many good things. There's so many things like,
Yes.
wow, we're showing up as our best self, but it actually doesn't take much to knock us into the version of ourselves that I'm kind of embarrassed about it, to be honest. I'm kind of like, I should be through
Yeah.
this. I should be better than this, but I'm not. So I got to keep working on it.
Oh, thanks for going there. What to kind of turn around the question on you? What, as a coach, what would you say to yourself if it wasn't you? You're sitting with Mike Foster, whose house is destroyed. Like, what would you say to you?
Yeah, I think the advice I would give myself would be so much of life is about understanding and being very clear on the things that are in your control, things that are in your partial control, and things that are not in your control at all. Okay. And so there's kind of these three categories. And so I would look at this category and go, okay, um, this clearly is not in my full control. Okay. Because there's just things that have to happen here that I don't get to I don't get to decide whether somebody's going to be cutting tile next to my office for 8 hours today. I don't get to decide that because he's going to do that. But I think what this situation is, but I also would say I'm not out of control. I do have a voice. I do have some power here. And so I'd say
Yep.
this is a partial control category. And so what I would say is, Mike, don't be a victim. Don't allow yourself to feel like, just take your frustration and anger out. Find the places and the levers of partial control and utilize those. And so to me, like a partial control would be, hey guys, I have an important meeting in 2 hours with a client. Is there a way for us to not cut tile for the next
Yep.
hour and maybe work on, I don't know, the grouting or something like that, something that's quieter? Now, a lot of us would look at that situation. We go, "Oh, I'm not just not going to say anything. I don't want to bother anybody. They're just going to do what they're going to do and throw our hands up." And it's like, so I think it's really important anytime we're feeling these things and experiencing these things to categorize whether it's a full control, partial control, and no control or no control item, and then take action if there's an opportunity to take action. If it's a no control item, by the way, Adam, which is a lot of life is that way, there's a lot of things
Yeah.
that will be out of our control. Then we're moving into healthy surrender and release as best as we can. Say like, I surrender this, I let go of this, because there's absolutely nothing I can do about it.
So good. Seriously, Mike, thanks for sharing that. Cause whether it's your house construction or even just different people I've met with this week, they would benefit so much for hearing just what you shared. Okay, so 7 primal questions. If you're listening and you haven't done the 7 primal questions yet, please primalquestion.com. Go to it. Encourage your significant other to go to it, your team to go to it. We've talked about it a ton as a staff here. It's been so helpful. Mike, I've heard you share about this on at least 7 different occasions, both on podcasts, in person, with our mutual friend, Brad Lomenick out in Colorado. Every time I've heard it, I've been just fascinated. Really, and you can go listen to all that. So if you haven't, take the questionnaire, go listen to some other these basics really, really quick. Just the Cliff Notes version of the 7 primal questions. Kind of what are they? Just bring us up to speed on kind of the basics.
Yeah, so it's been an ongoing work I've been doing for the past 5 years, but really it's a culmination of 20 years of work
Yeah.
dealing with individuals, trying to understand why they make certain choices, understand our core motivators. And so the primal question, 7 primal questions, is really about a model. It's a new way to understand human behavior, a new way to understand ourselves, but also a new way to understand our gifts that flow from a core need that is represented in a core primal question that drives everything. And so, one of the things like within therapy or coaching or other assessments, there's lots of different things we can focus on as sort of the catalytic thing that drives our lives, our emotions, our feelings, our choices, our behaviors. What makes 7 primal questions unique is that we go after one thing and we go after it really, really hard. And it is about understanding the unmet need within you. And there's a singular need that you have, and we're all unique in terms of what that need is, but there's 7 kind of core needs represented by 7 primal questions. And once we understand, really, I call it the track underneath the water. It is,
Yeah.
I share the story often about there was a Disneyland ride called the Motorboat Cruise, and there was these little boats on the water, Fantasyland Lagoon, that you could drive all over the place. And as a kid, I thought I was driving that boat, but the reality was there was a track underneath the water that was basically prescribing my course that I would go on. There's Walt Disney was not going to let little kids drive boats all over the place wherever they wanted to. Okay, um, and all of and so kind of the premise here is that all of us have this track, and it's all driven by a core need that you have, and when that need is met, you are your best version of yourself. But when that core need is unmet, that's where we go into these unhealthy coping mechanisms of trying to get that need met again. And so the 7 primal questions is really kind of a simple, efficient, accelerated model to fully understand what's happening inside of us and what's happening inside of the people that we work with, our spouses, our friends, understanding that and then giving us the empowerment to reorient around not trying to understand an emotion or feeling. That's not what it's about. I want
Yeah.
to understand what is the unmet need that is driving the emotion and feeling, which is then driving the behavior.
Okay, so good. Okay, so just as a guinea pig. I'm willing to, and Mike, there is nothing off limits here, and I haven't told you this. So my question is question 5: Am I successful? Uh, Legitimately,
Yes.
nothing's out. You can ask anything. So just as an example, what does that look like? And yeah, what does that mean? So my question is, am I successful? What does that mean? And maybe how does it look? Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say the most important need that is driving Adam's life is needing to be successful. Okay. Again, we're going to just use kind of simple language here. The need to win, the need to accomplish. And these needs, by the way, get imprinted early on in our early childhood. And so this has been a part of your story for a very long time. It is the lens, success is the lens of how you see life. Okay. And so the way the model would work is anytime, so the question, am I successful? When Adam gets a yes to that question, okay, he wins at something, I don't know, there's great attendance on the weekend services, you hit fundraising goals, whatever success, and you get a yes, you are going to feel great. Okay. But if you get a no to your am I successful question or a maybe to your am I successful question, you go into what I write about in the book, what's called the scramble. And the scramble is all the different things that we try to do to force the answer back to a yes. So now I'm going to ask you, Adam, tell me what Adam's scramble looks like when he gets a no or a maybe to his am I successful question. What kind of things do you do? What kind of patterns, behaviors, thoughts do you go to when you get a no to the am I successful question?
I began to look for maybe some numbers that I can control. So I
Mm,
begin to, whether that's podcast numbers or like, gosh, what 20 things could I do to get my podcast numbers up? Um, I began to look for validation. Mike, you're such a safe person. Um, this is a weird thing to tell you. Years ago, I was around you because we spent time together for several hours in Sioux Falls. I believe it was after that I got some news around one of my books, and I remember sharing it with you and Brian Warzel. And after I did, I felt so gross because I was trying
mm,
to impress you. That's honestly a weird thing to
mm,
tell you, but I remember saying it, hoping that because I just look up to you so much, I wanted to impress you.
mm,
And afterwards, I just felt dirty because I felt like I had like sold myself.
mm.
But I'll do things like that because I want to be successful. I mean, anything that I could
Yes.
possibly control to drive those numbers or validation to the yes is what it looks like.
Exactly. So, Adam, you're describing perfectly what a scramble looks like. And again, when we're in our scramble, one of the things I always encourage my clients and people to think about is we need to have always compassion for the things that we're doing in our scramble. Because all Adam is trying to do when he's, I don't know, bragging about his numbers to Mike and Brian is he's trying to meet that need of success. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that need. There's no judgment around having that need. The thing that Adam wants to understand and should understand is number one, to look at his scramble and whatever the behaviors are, like I activate 20 things and I'm 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 hyping myself up and kind of bragging about something, or I'm going to find numbers that will validate me and tell me I'm a success. All of that is what we call kid logic. All right. And kid logic is the stuff that we learned as kids to figure out how to meet the unmet need for you, Adam, success. All right. And
Yeah.
so the thing that we have to be aware of here is, are we taking kid logic strategies to meet a need and now applying those to our adult problems? Okay. This is a bad way of going about life. Okay. Not a very strategic way to go about life, to allow, for Mike Foster, to allow his, 8-year old self to, for adult Mike Foster to look to the 8-year old to solve my my needs as an adult. Okay. And for me, my need is safety. Okay.
Yep.
So my primal question is, am I safe? And that comes from early childhood trauma that I experienced. And so and part of my scramble is hyper control, uh, avoiding all risks, being very, like I got to know all the information. Okay.
And that's
This is
still,
how
and
I
that's,
operate to get my,
yeah. And that's still there even today. Like you still feel that tug even right now today.
absolutely. I mean, we opened this conversation about my house. How much do you think how much power and control do you think I'm feeling in this situation in my house? Not
Yeah.
much. And so really what we were talking about earlier in my house is this unmet need that I have for power and control so I can be safe. Okay? So
It's
it's
good.
all interconnected, and the helpful thing that we want to do is, again, I don't judge myself for going to my kid logic to solve for me believing that hyper control is the way for me to feel safe, because I've been using those methodologies for my whole life to get the need of safety met. Nothing wrong with that, but we do not want to stay there. We do not want to use the strategies that we developed as children as adults. Okay. And for some
Absolutely.
of us, Adam, I encourage people who are listening and have these needs. Our needs are real. There's no problem with having a primal question. The problem is the scramble, the way that we go about meeting that need in unhealthy ways. Okay, so for Adam, perhaps it's through puffery and hyping himself up in front of his friends about his book sales. For Mike, maybe it's through hyper control and trying to figure out everything there is to know about some situation so that I can feel safe. But what we need to do is kind of have a conversation with that kid logic part of ourselves and say, hey, I'm going to let you off the hook. You are no longer responsible for Mike's safety. You are no longer responsible for Adam's success. There's adults here, us, healthy adult Adam, healthy adult Mike,
Yeah.
who will now be responsible for meeting that need in health with healthier strategies.
That's so good. I really, there's so much I want to say. It's so cool to see growth in myself. That this weekend I got a last minute engagement opportunity. The only reason, if I was to drill down to it, there's some really cool God things in it. The only reason I wanted to say yes is for appearance. It was a really
Uh,
neat opportunity. But I know that I really want to be at home. Like I'd actually much rather be with my wife and kids. My oldest is a senior, and so I said no to go.
Good
And
for
it
you.
was like
Good for
so,
you.
even this morning I was processing with God. I'm like I'm so grateful, but the older version of me would have said yes because I know what it would have done to that question. Um, one last thing. We just did Strength Finders, and we gave awards, kind of funny awards out. And the person who is sharing has high trust, so she can share anything she wants to about me. But she said we're going to give the Chill Out Award, and they looked at the Strength Finders without the names attached. And I was the number one person who needed to chill out because it's like achiever, competitive. Like, I'm like, oh my
Yes.
gosh. I literally afterwards, I'm like, was that a joke? And she's like, no, I hit all the names and I picked you. I'm like, this is terrible. What would you, any reflections on that? And you're not a strength finder, but any reflection on that and how it engages with that? Am I successful?
Absolutely. Okay, so you bring up a really good point. By the way, I always kind of joke that the seven primal questions it's as if strength finders and the five love languages had got together and had a very attractive child. Okay, that's kind of what I describe the seven primal questions, because there's a lot within those two concepts within seven primal questions. And the thing that's really important here, and I really like focusing on this, especially with in leadership and really having a more redemptive, hopeful picture of our needs. And here's how it works. I call it the primal gift. And so, Adam, one of the things that comes from your primal question of, am I successful, is a primal gift. And it looks like this. The research shows that we take our primal question and we put it over everybody else. And we assume they are asking the exact same question that we are. So, Adam, you are going to interface and kind of do relationships and do leadership through the lens of success. And what your gift comes through helping other people be successful. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to give them a yes to the success question, even though they may be asking a different question, right?
Yes.
I don't care about success. I care about safety, but your orientation towards me in our relationship you'll be seeing your primal question over me, thinking I'm asking, am I successful? And then you do an incredible job of answering that with a yes, which is then our primal gift. Okay, so I'll give you an example of Q5. Am I successful? Kobe Bryant, right? Michael Jordan, Tom Brady. These are all clearly identified as Q5s driven by the need to be successful. Now, is there a downside to playing with Michael Jordan? You betcha. Is there a downside to playing with Kobe Bryant? You betcha. But if you're going for an NBA championship trophy, you want to win it all, you want Kobe on your team. All right.
So
You
good.
don't want Mike Foster on his team because I'm like telling you all the things could go wrong here. All right. I'm, I'm telling you all the risks. I'm telling you, like, that's not winning NBA championships. Okay. So it's a new way to see our orientation around a need, your need to be successful, is also the gift that you bring to your team. Okay. I know how to win. Okay. That's why you're the leader. Okay. And there's going to be parts of your leadership that many people will not understand. They may not understand, I don't know, your intensity. They may not, so they're like,
Wow.
chill out, bro. But that actually is your gift that you bring to the group, that intensity. Now, listen, we want to do that in a healthy way. We don't want to have that intensity be in our scramble, but there's a beautiful part of you because you want to succeed.
Mike, that's so cool. So after the meeting, this gal who presented and did a phenomenal job, and when I asked her, was it really me? And she said yes. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she said to me, she said, Adam, I just want to encourage you. Embrace wouldn't be the church it is. We wouldn't have touched all these lives
Yes.
without first off God's kindness and goodness, but secondly the wiring and the beautiful way that God made you. And
That's
for
right.
I think for years I would have said, don't use beautiful, use like broken or wrong or even sinful way that I was made, because
Mm, mm,
it felt unholy and unpleasing to God. And just in the last 5 years, am I beginning to see it as a gift? And it's like, no,
mm.
that's a gift. And even when one of my children right now, this morning, I was actually praying over my one child, and I said, Lord, help me to see the beauty in how they're wired, and only to harness it, not to try to squelch it. Because it's a,
Yes.
and I could see the desire to want to squelch it, and yet it's like, and so much of how he's wired is me, and wanting to maybe change him to not be like me. But it's really just a beautiful thing. Okay, I'm gonna switch though. I want to talk about marriage, the primal question with marriage. So really quickly, and I hope everybody listening kind of apply this to themselves. So mine is, am I successful within my marriage? And that's true with everybody around me, with maybe the exception of my wife. So with her, I feel like my question is, am I secure? Am I loved? Am I wanted? With everybody else,
Mm,
it's success. And just a quick backstory on me, Mike. So again, I'm being very open just because I want it to be helpful. in elementary school, I was picked on terribly.
Mm.
Was the in my eyes, I would have said one of the top three biggest losers in my class. The
Mm.
next day after sixth grade, I moved to a new town, and I went from being
By the way,
yeah,
just real quick before you think of that
yeah,
language that you just used right there.
yeah,
I was a loser.
yeah.
I
It's
bring that
good.
up because one of the things that we need to be aware of is how we language our primal question in very subtle ways.
Whoa.
But as you think about your identity, how you see yourself, it's even being influenced by that need. I mean, when you said I was the loser, that's a Q5 languaging.
Ugh.
And so keep going, but I just want to bring that up because for people who are listening, we tell on ourselves on what our core need is all the time, and so
Wow.
do other people. And if we would just listen, we would see it, we'd see through all the scramble, we'd see through all the stuff, and we actually go, you know what, Adam just wants to know that he's winning. Adam just wants to know that
Ah,
he's successful. How can I affirm that in Adam? I mean, it just can totally change relationships if we're just paying attention, because it's always front and center. But go ahead. And I didn't mean to cut you off,
thank
but that was
yeah,
really interesting language that you used in that moment to describe this very
yeah.
traumatic time in your life.
Thanks for cutting me off and saying that, Mike. Like I did not even hear myself, honestly. So
Hmm.
after sixth grade, I moved to a new town, and I went from struggling to being one or top two most popular kids in my class in less than 24
Hmm.
hours. And since that time, I've always been well liked. High school,
Hmm.
popular, very popular. College would say the same thing. Um,
Hmm.
and I think success is how I've filled
Yes.
push that. With my wife,
Yep.
though, and again, I'm being so open here, but I just want it to be helpful. And honestly, I'm
Yep.
really curious. I think it's with her, she, she could care less about success. I mean, like,
Hmm.
the embrace grows, and she's like, are we telling people about Jesus and making people more like him? That's all I care about. Like, I don't care about numbers. Oh, you got a book deal? I'll give you a gold star. And I'm like, I'm glad you're writing whatever, but like zero care about success. With her though, I
Hmm.
want to know that I'm loved and wanted and secure. What is that all about? Why isn't it success with, why am I not wanting that success from her?
Yeah, it's interesting in terms of that relationship. So what I would say is that fundamentally, like that relationship that you have with her, there is a desire to be seen as successful. Okay, there is that, and I would not want to dismiss that and say,
That's
oh, I
good.
have a different need or I have a different question. I think what's probably happening is that you feel that she's doing a really good job answering that question for you. You feel like a success, so you are not living in your scramble around it. Okay,
It's good.
which then allow once we sort of settled, okay, once we sort of settled that primal question, that primal need, it actually allows us to engage in other secondary needs that we might have. Okay,
Whoa.
I think what's happening with you is you feel so good with her in terms of her, you feeling like a success in her eyes, her affirming you as a man and somebody who has accomplished so much and has achieved so much, that you're not asking the question with her. You're now moving into some different parts of
Yeah.
different needs that you might have.
That's really insightful because that I would definitely feel successful in her eyes.
Hmm.
Like again, success just isn't something for her, but I mean, like she's deeply encouraged me in that way. And it definitely is some of those secondary things. Okay, that's fascinating. Okay, so marriage in general. Becky gave me the ability to say this. Her question is, "Am I wanted?" How
Mm.
how how do I love her well and marriage in general. You can even open it up like what the primal questions in our marriage or with our significant other. Like, why does it matter there? Yeah.
Oh, this is where it gets really, really fun, is because I'm into like understanding myself and self-awareness so I can be a better individual, a better leader, a better father, a better husband. That's cool. But when I start applying this into the relationships that I'm having, this is where it gets really fun. So it with your spouse, uh, I guess the concept that would want your listeners to know is that fundamentally, at bottom line, this you cannot be in a healthy, sustainable relationship with anybody who continually answers your primal question with a no or a maybe.
Whoa.
Okay. I actually think this is why marriages come to an end, because the spouse did not answer the other spouse's primal question in the affirmative. Not enough yeses, way too many nos and maybes. And so what I tell couples is like, first of all, take the assessment, right? Primalquestion.com. Take the assessment, find out what your question is, find out what your spouse's question is, and then have a very blunt, direct conversation about number one, what am I doing that is answering your primal question with a no? So,
Yeah.
Adam, you want to know what things unintentionally, by the way, they typically tend to be unintentional. None of this is like I'm trying to hurt my spouse, okay?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to make my spouse feel unwanted. You're not, no one thinks that way, okay? Unless you're just a real jerk, all right? But it's unintentional. But I would ask Becky, I'd say, hey, what am I doing right now that is answering your primal question of am I wanted with a no? And she might say, you know what? when you when you spend a lot of time at work and you prioritize, I don't know, your friends and over me, or like, hey, you're busy, you have a busy travel season, you come home and you're just kind of like you zone out and you don't really acknowledge me. That feels like a no or a maybe to my primal question. Okay. If I were you, Adam, I'd want to be aware of that, right? I'd want to
Yeah.
know what are those things that I do. Okay. Secondarily, the second question I would ask her is, okay, I know what no's and maybes look like in terms of my interactions with you and what I'm doing. How would I answer your primal question with a yes? And here's what typically happens when I'm working with couples is, we'd ask Becky, okay, Becky, how does Adam answer how can he answer your primal question with a yes? And this is what probably Becky would say. Oh, he knows. And I'd say, hey, Becky, he doesn't know. Okay. In fact, Becky, and she'd go, well, just pay more attention to me. I go, Becky, that's as clear as mud. Okay. Adam does not know what to do with pay more attention to you. Okay. You need to tell him specifically how to answer this question with a big resounding yes. Okay. And then we'd say, well, and I'm just, we're
This is so
spitballing this. Who
good.
knows
This is
what
so
her
good.
answer
I
might be.
can't I cannot
But
wait to I can't wait to listen to this with her and just because yeah, this is so good. So good.
Yes. So we'd push the kind of answer we'd want is very specific, very clear. So Adam knows exactly what to do, and Adam can make a strong commitment to doing that as often as possible. So it could be like, take me out to, I don't know, Chili's every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Don't miss that. Don't schedule any meetings over that. That is a big yes for me. Okay, great. Adam, that's your marching orders. You're going to
Yeah.
commit to that. By the way, with Q4s, and let's more generalize this, I always tell anybody who's married to a Q4, I said probably the most important thing or concept to think about is the word pursuit. Looking for the 1,000 different ways for you to pursue that Q4. Because what they want and what they desire is belonging and connection. Okay. By the way, that's not my desire. I don't need anybody to pursue me. I don't really care if I belong. I just need safety. Okay. And Adam, you're probably the same way. I don't need necessarily anybody to pursue me, or I just want to be successful and win. Okay. But when we take the time to understand our spouse's primal question and their core need, that's an act of love. That's an act of
Oh,
service and an investment into that relationship. Because what Becky's going to tell you are probably concepts that honestly you don't understand that well because it's not the lens that you look through.
oh.
You look through success. All Becky thinks about is being wanted and belonging.
That's so good. And so you would encourage, so if a couple is listening, do that with each other. Goes through those
Yes.
those handful of questions, and then hey, here's kind of what, like, make a commitment to do these one or two things. Anything else that you'd add on
Yeah.
that?
Well, maybe another kind of metaphorically thing to imagine with your spouse or your significant other is to imagine they have a sign around their neck, okay, and like a little sign, and it's right across their chest. It's a big cardboard sign, and it has their primal question on it. So Adams would say, "Am I successful?" Becky's would say, "Am I wanted?" And anytime you're interacting with your spouse, just look at that sign and go, "How am I answering this question right now in this moment with a yes?" If you can attune and learn and get into the rhythms of answering that question, that cardboard sign around their neck, with a yes, you will have a successful relationship. Mike, you will have a thriving marriage where you feel safe, where you are not wondering whether Jennifer, my wife Jennifer, is going to hurt me, leave me, uh, surprise me. I feel safe, and this is the way to have thriving marriages. It's so simple. And here's the thing: I think there's been a lot of great books and a lot of great conversations around marriage, around like, so, we hear like love and respect, and that is true. There's truth in that, but this is a more precision, and it's precision around the core, unique core need that your spouse has.
Oh.
I don't care if Jennifer loves me. Actually, I don't even care if Jennifer respects me. I care that Jennifer doesn't make me feel unsafe.
Whoa, incredible. Mike, last question. This is just purely for me. On your Primal Questions site, it says, and this is purely success. I didn't even think about that until gosh, I'm hopeless. The question, this is that's so bizarre. It says, laser focus on this one thing and watch everything change. And then it says,
Mm-hmm.
are you looking to accelerate your growth? That is purely success person here. What is
Of
that? What
course, of course.
that first part? What does that mean? Laser focus on this one thing and watch everything change. Are you looking for a way to accelerate your growth? Anything that you would add to those?
Yeah, I think
Like what?
again,
Yeah,
there's
just the
lots.
meaning.
We are,
Just the meaning of it.
yeah, we. I think life change is way too complex. I think life change and transformation, we make it way too hard. And I'm just saying, focus on this one thing, the need. If you focus on the one thing, hyper focus on it, understand how it is the driver, the catalyst for everything. If you can understand that one thing, then you understand everything. If you don't see that thing, or you're ignorant to that thing, or you deny that thing, then life is going to be very difficult for you. Okay. And so understand it, get clear on it. And what happens is when you are, it's that whole saying, like, as you define how you define the problem, determines how you define the solution. Okay. And so defining the problem as the problem is always an unmet need. Okay. It's always the problem. If you're in conflict in your relationship, there's an unmet need driving the conflict. Okay. If you are frustrated, angry, anxious, there's an unmet need driving all of those emotions. It's fundamental. And so when we focus on that unmet need as the problem, we can build the right solutions. And the solutions say, oh, not let's change my emotions, not let's change my behaviors. Let's figure out a way to meet that unmet need. that's the solution. And so it simplifies, hyper focus on that one thing, and you accelerate growth.
Oh, that's incredible, Mike. That's everything. Um, Thank you. Thanks for letting me get really, really vulnerable. And thanks for
Oh man, we could talk for hours. I would love to
ah,
just keep digging in there, and we should maybe we gotta get a reunion going of our couple-hour conversation that we had many years ago. But seriously, Adam, it's such an honor just to know you and be a
yeah,
part of your life.
yeah,
And I just love that we can talk this way. And again, we're just all trying to heal and grow and do positive things in the world. And if we could just kind of understand like where we get tripped up, and it's usually we're getting tripped up because there's an unmet need that's going unmet. We can just really jump forward into, I think, the things that God wants for us, the things that our spouses want from us, our kids want from us, our teams want from us. We really have so much to offer, but unfortunately, like that scramble gets in the way, and we
yeah.
don't have to live that way anymore.
Friends, how good was that? If you are married, tell your spouse to take the assessment and do the homework that Mike told me and my wife to go and do ourselves. So helpful. Mike Foster, I love you. Thanks for always being the real deal. Thanks for letting me bare my soul with you as well. Shout out to our partners, Tommy John. Gosh, Tommy John, I love you so much. And Vern Idy, an organization that I just believe in wholeheartedly, who both helped make this episode of The Conversation possible. So I'm so grateful for them. Last but not least, I'm so thankful for every single one of you who listens to The Conversation. If this episode could be helpful to your friends, share it with them. If you haven't done so before, leave an honest review. I'd be so grateful for that. But have a fantastic rest of your day.